going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports MLB Swing for the Fences show. I'm your host, Mangone. I got JT Hayes. I got DraftG. We're talking baseball. Excited to be here with you guys. And we're going to address this slate up as much as possible because it is a gross slate. But hey, when we're playing baseball here, we're going to give you the winners no matter what. JT Hayes, we'll go to you first. Talk to me about this slate and talk to me about your day.
Yeah, so I think some of you may know that we started a new little video series. It's going to be 3 days a week. It's called JT's Bang Bang Plays. And I sat down to record it, and I took a look at the slate, and then I just threw up. And I just literally sat here for an hour looking at these games and these options, these pitching options, the weather. There's only one game that's supposed to have a first pitch temperature above 50 degrees. That game also looks like it's going to be littered with torrential downpours up in Boston. So I think the higher price pitchers are, I would almost guarantee, not going to pay off their prices. The lower price pitchers, it's like you're just dancing around landmines. I think there are some potentially okay offensive spots, but again, it's cold, there's wind. At least there's some wind blowing out Yankee Stadium, Cincinnati. So if you haven't checked it out, check out the JT's Bang Bang Plays. But like you said, man, it is a ugly slate tonight. This early season has been pretty interesting. We've had some great slates, and then we've had slates where, you know, there's one team that scores more than 3 runs. So we'll see which one it is tonight.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what it is tonight. We got Stress One in the chat says good mojo only. Mr. Bodie or Boat, I don't know how to say it. JT, you're on the show, so I can say it however I want, right?
You decide.
Yep. So we got smash the like. So yeah, guys, smash that like, smash that subscribe. We got people filing in now, and you know why they're filing in? They're filing in for DC's winners, right? DC's core plays, everything that we have over at Run Pure Sports. Draft Cheat, how is your day going, and how's the heater going?
Things are good. You know, like we say, we try to bring the good mojo on the show, and so I don't want to talk too much, say too many bad things about this slate. But like JT said, it's a rough one. I mean, we've had a lot of cold weather to start the season. You know, we're 2/3 of the way through April now. Midwest has just been cold the entire time, basically, and it's tough. You know, I usually recommend against playing hitters in these cold weather games. Well, you don't have an option tonight. We got nothing but cold weather games, as JT mentioned. So, hey, at least, you know, it's kind of like an even playing field. You mentioned, you know, maybe a little bit better New York and Boston if the Boston game gets in. We've already had one game canceled due to inclement weather, Chicago and Cleveland. Pretty much all the other games have that same weather, right? They're just going to play through it, basically. So probably going to be a low offensive scoring day, but you never know. We saw the Royals and Rays last night, much to the demise of my lineups. That game finished like 11-7, something like that. They're going back at it. So, you know, we'll try our best. I'll be honest, like there'll be plenty of slates where I come on here. I'm all excited. I got all these great plays. This isn't one of those for me, but everyone's got to deal with kind of the same slate. You got to just choose the best options. And at the end of the night, all these big tournaments are going to run. There will be winners atop the leaderboard, and we'll try our best to get there ourselves and help get you guys there. So is what it is. You know, you take it in stride and you do the best you can.
Yep. You know, winners across the board. I had some winners yesterday, so can't complain. And JT Hayes, I think on the NBA show, you gave out Mr. Mike Trout, which isn't it's not a hard thing to do, right? But you said the Angels, they're gonna have a nice little day against Mr. Lyles, and some of them got there, not all of them. But you know, I was wavering on jamming Trout in. I jammed Burns on FanDuel. I jammed Bryce Harper, Arenado, Trout. I kept them all. I just played a bunch of 2K guys and a bunch of 4K guys. So you know, thanks for keeping me on that, JT. I don't know if it actually helped, but I'll give you some credit.
Yeah, I liked the Angels. I also gave out Anthony Edwards, who went for almost 7x his salary. So I had some good winners there on the NBA show. And Mr. Butte wanted me to let you know. He knows I know that he pronounces his name Butte. And so that's how we get the good mojo going. Mr. Butte is in here. Someone's looking for us to convince him to play the slate. I mean, it's a slate. There's a lot of money at stake, like DC said. Someone's going to win these tournaments. We're going to do what we can to put you in the best position so that it's one of us.
Yep. When someone has a suggestion, JT, I say it's an idea, right? It's an idea. Didn't say it's good or bad, but it's a slate, right? It's a slate. We'll figure it out, though. We'll make sure to get you the money and get you set up.
It is indeed a slate. There we go.
It's a slate. I mean, it's going to be there today. We'll play it, and we're going to get it done. Before we dive in, DC, you always do the podcast, with tons of different guests. So tell the people a little bit about that on iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, wherever you can find it.
Yeah, pretty much any day when there's when the majority of the games aren't early games, there'll be a podcast out, Monday through Friday, usually 4 or 5 times a week. Just because like today we didn't do it just because there's no time to listen to it. Like once the baseball starts, I don't think people are really going to be firing up the podcast when there could just actually be watching or listening to baseball. So yeah, but rotating guests through on the podcast. You can search any place you would normally find podcasts. Just search Run Pure Sports. Breaking down usually the next day's or, that morning's baseball games, basically. Talking strategy, some analytics stuff. It's kind of a little bit more of a free flowing thing where wherever it goes, we'll kind of take it with the baseball stuff. But obviously the general outline is to discuss the upcoming slate of games.
Yep. So check that out. Give us a 5-star review. Check it out. It's a great time. Always a good way to get started, especially because, again, I like NBA podcasts, but harder to do those beforehand. You can talk about all different numbers ahead of time. But listen, let's dive in. Let's talk about this slate, and let's talk about pitching. Sure. So where do we start? It's not the best slate. You could always make a case for an Ian Anderson because of the talent he has. But again, Vegas disagrees. They think that 4.8 run total could be a problem there. JT, I'll go to you first. Tyler Mahle seems like the chalk. Is that chalk you want to eat on this nasty slate?
So I think at the top, obviously, DC mentioned the Cleveland game was postponed. You had Aaron Savale, who was overpriced. We don't have to worry about him, but Tyler Mahle is overpriced too. $2,000 price jump on DraftKings. He just faced this Arizona team a couple of weeks ago in Arizona. And this is a team that's not striking out. There's 4 guys in the Arizona lineup that have a 20% or greater walk rate over the last 5 games. And I am looking at this as a spot where I might want to attack that chalk with some Diamondbacks. The wind is blowing out. Actually, don't mind a little bit of a game stack here. But you talked about Ian Anderson. Look, this Yankees team has started the season off in bad shape. They are striking out. I don't know if it's zips or it's one of the metrics on FanGraphs actually shows them to be projected the team to increase in the number of strikeouts over the course of this season year over year than last, more so than any other team in Major League Baseball. And we've seen that early on, right? They didn't release Jay Bruce, but he retired. So I like Ian Anderson just because of the limited options. I don't want to pay up. So I think 8.4 is probably as high as I'll go. There is one guy that I like. He pitched pretty well his first 2 times out. Not great, but pretty well. Only 6.4. Jake Junis against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay did explode yesterday, but he added a cutter. He's got a little bit of a different pitch mix. And then I think you could look at David Peterson at 7.1 against the Cubs. Cubs have had some good games, particularly Saturday and even Sunday night against Atlanta, but they do strike out 32% of the time against lefties. Wrigley is going to play, I expect, like a big park tonight. Very cold, wind blowing in. Other than that, I don't really see a whole lot else to be excited about for me.
Yeah, and JT, the parents, right, at Run Pure Sports. All of the parents of these, baseball players, basketball players. Is it Jacob Junis? Is it Jakob Junis? Is it Jacob Junis? How do we say this name? It's throwing us off here.
Yeah, it's not like Jakob Poeltl, I think is the way that they say his name, Jakob Poeltl. Yeah. It's Jacob Jonas. He's Junis, excuse me. He's a U.S. kid. He's not from outside the country. So Jacob is fine, Mango.
All right, I just want to make sure I'm getting that.
That's going to be our official call here at RPS. He's Jacob Junis from now on. Whether we're right or wrong, that's what we're calling him.
You just go with it. This is the kind of slate, by the way. That's a great point. This is the kind of slate you're going to be right or you're going to be wrong. And I think you have to take a stand and just go with, because 15 to 18 points might win you a tournament out of your pitchers tonight.
If I could lock in 15 to 18 points from both my pitchers on DraftKings, I would roster any 2 of these guys, any 2 of them, if I could take those points right now. It's that type of slate. I'm not saying no one will exceed that, but it's just it's rough out there, and that's, we're saying that's a relatively low point count for a starting pitcher. We're saying that we don't even really like any of the hitters because it's so cold. Like that's I expect a very, very low scoring slate tonight. It doesn't always work out that way, but I think that's the most likely outcome here. In terms of what I'm looking at pitcher, I do think you can pay for Tyler Mahle today. I agree with JT. He is overpriced, but again, I think he's got a decent chance to deliver a pretty good game. He's got 3 good games in a row. I think he's maybe the most, I guess Ian Anderson, probably the most talented guy here, given that Corey Kluber seems to, I had some faith in him coming in, but I'm waning on Corey Kluber for sure. So yeah, Mahle's fine. If you like the bats, that you're getting in with him, if you like a cheaper stack or something like that, which totally reasonable in this slate. Ian Anderson, I don't think I'm going there against the Yankees. I was on Charlie Morton yesterday. He delivered pretty good game, especially compared to some of the other options. Part of the reason I like him is because he's got that big breaking ball, is able to strike out guys like Judge and Stanton. Ian Anderson's best pitch is a changeup, which obviously doesn't move away from those big right-handed bats. It's got to stay over the middle of the plate a little bit. He'll throw like a high changeup. That's a scary pitch against Judge and Stanton, right? If they guess right on it, especially with the wind blowing out in Yankee Stadium, I could see him giving up a couple of home runs here. So actually, I haven't been on Judge and Stanton basically all year long, but I do kind of like both those guys, just given the individual matchup against Anderson. JT, you mentioned Junis at 6,400. I mean, why not? He's been fine. He's been an okay pitcher over the course of his career. Matchup's pretty good against Tampa Bay, obviously good pitching weather. So he's a good option. Peterson, I agree. He's been pretty impressive to start the year when you look at some of the underlying metrics. He wasn't a guy that I was particularly high on coming into the year, but he's changed my mind a little bit. And then I think my favorite option on this slate is Michael Wacha, who is not a guy I have been on in the past. If you look at his 3 matchups, he's faced Boston, the Yankees, and the Yankees. And I know the Yankees, haven't been great to start the year, but still, that's 3 pretty tough matchups. 2 of those in New York and in Boston. Threw 93 pitches his last time out, struck out 9 Yankees. His swinging strikes have been way, way up this year. He's made a couple changes where he's getting more vertical movement on his fastball, combining that with a cutter and a changeup. This isn't, on a normal slate, I probably wouldn't be on Wacha here, but you're looking at like between 14 and 17% swinging strike rate. Compared to the other pitchers on the slate, that's an enormous number. He's a fly ball pitcher. I think that's going to play pretty well in Kansas City. He can go obviously 90 to 100 pitches. And the matchup's good against Kansas City anyway, right? Like I think right-handed pitchers are going to do pretty well against that team over the course of the season. So Wacha is my number 1. I don't know if he will be my number 1 anytime the rest of the year. And I don't know if he's been my number 1 any slate before this one, but on this particular slate, that's the guy I'm going to be rolling with.
Hey, he's no Kyle Gibson draft cheap, but today he is number 1.
Don't even mention them in the same sentence. That's insulting to my guy Gibson.
Disrespectful. My apologies. We got to get the good mojo going again. So, but Michael Wacha is someone that DC is looking at. What do you think, JT? Is Wacha someone that you want to get in on? Would you go overweight, underweight? How are you handling him in this spot?
Yeah, I think on this slate, obviously he's in play. I worry a little bit, and this is a way I play. I worry about these guys that have complete outlier performances, and Michael Wacha just had one. 34 DraftKings points against the Yankees. I think that game was actually in Yankee Stadium. They usually let down, especially guys that aren't consistent. No one has ever accused Michael Wacha of being consistent. And I'd actually expect the Royals to put up a couple of runs here. But again, weather, wind blowing in. So it's definitely within the realm of possibility that he has a pretty good game.
Yeah, certainly. Gary says Waka Flocka Flame. So when you use that joke, JT, it's not a good sight to see, right? I almost used the joke and I said, it's probably a bad idea, but seeing Gary use it, I think it was the right call not to use that one, right?
That's a good litmus test right there.
Oh, man. Just having fun with Gary in the chat. Gary's been crushing it, giving us all the stuff in the Discord chat. So if you ever have any questions on the slates, he plays a bunch of them. He's always in on them. And it's also good to know, like, you don't have to play every slate. I like to talk about that sometimes. Like, just because we have for instance, on Saturday, right? You're going to have all these baseball slates, NBA, MMA, you could take one of them off, right? I don't really take a day off. I play pretty much every day, but it's okay to feel like you don't have to spread yourself too thin. Sometimes you might be doing some tinkering. So this is not the worst day to take off, but again, we're going to have those winners for you. We're going to have
listen, Travis, I don't think that's bad advice, but presumably if you're watching the show, I know we're three beautiful people, you're probably playing the slate, right? I don't think you're tuning in just to hang out with the guys. I mean, maybe, but
who wouldn't want to hang out with JT Hayes? Do you see that bald, beautiful head? I mean, I think hanging out with JT Hayes, I've done it. It's a good time.
It's a fair point.
So, but that is fair. Probably not the best call. But again, I like to mention it because I do think it's something that can be valuable, or maybe dial the action back. Like maybe you're a cash guy, right? And at times I used to do this a lot. I play way more tournaments than I used to, but I'd be like, I'm going to take this slate to play tournaments and I'm going to scale the action down and do that. Or maybe you're someone that, you typically don't go after a qualifier and you see a qualifier out there and you want to take a shot on it. Feel free to do it if you think that you have some type of edge, or if you think that you have, you're seeing something maybe that others are not. So there's tons of different routes that you can go on these kind of slates, and the chalk really condenses, especially at pitchers. For guys like Tyler Mahle, he should not be chalk, it feels like at times. But DC, sum up the pitchers for me, and then we will move on and talk about some of these positions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think there are any great options, to be honest, on the slate. My guy is Michael Wacha tonight. That could go south, to be honest. It wouldn't shock me at all. But he's the guy I'm going to be rolling with. Beyond that, if Tyler Mahle's really going to be super chalky, I'll just probably go elsewhere because he's just not that great of a pitcher. That's actually one of the better hitting environments tonight. Frankly, it's not a great one, but it's one of the better ones. So yeah, for me, Wacha, and then probably Peterson or Jacob Junis as my SP2. Very, very exciting plays right there.
And DC, we got in the chat, stress one, not true. I watch all the shows, even NBA, and I haven't played NBA in several weeks. So there you go. Okay. We also got Matt Ernst. He says, I'm one of those losers that watches even when I'm not playing. Listen, Matt, you're a winner, man. Don't say that about yourself. You're part of Run Pure Sports. You are not a loser. You are a winner.
You're welcome here in Mom's basement anytime, my friend.
There are bagel bites ready to go. Always stocked up for you. But
they'll warm us up while we're watching these cold ass weather games.
All right, JT, you got one more thing to add before we move on and talk about these positions. So JT, what do you got for us here?
I do have one more thing. My guy, Gary, mentioned it in the chat here. It's something that I was going to bring up. One of the things I look at is how lucky a pitcher has been on the year. And we were talking about Tyler Mahle. His batted ball in play against average is just 200. That's the lowest on the slate today. He does have a 50% fly ball rate. And I like, again, 7-game slate. If he's going to be between 40 and 50% owned, I'm definitely going to have a bunch of Diamondback stacks.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Obviously the BAP is a good thing to look at. That's a stat that, you like looking at to kind of see if you can chase, a pitcher that's gotten a little lucky, as you say. So let's hope that we can attack that. And hey, maybe that'll be a good leverage opportunity there. Let's dive in and let's talk about the catchers. And man, I typically don't like to talk about catchers, but today's the day we're going to do it. And there's some decent guys at least, but the matchups aren't the best, right? Gary Sanchez is a name that you obviously sometimes like to get exposure to. Salvador Perez, Travis d'Arnaud, Wilson Contreras against the lefty. I mean, there are guys here. I mean, what do you want to do here, Draft Cheat? We'll kick it off with you. Are you paying up for these catchers or are you paying down?
Yeah, I think you can pay up. I mean, that's going to be the case for a lot of these positions, right? It sounds like we're kind of on the Tyler Mahle fade. That's going to leave us with a lot of salary because there's really nobody else expensive on the slate, especially, I'm not on Ian Anderson, so I'm talking 7K pitchers. To me, we mentioned we kind of like Peterson, but Wilson Contreras looks good. I know, obviously, it's going to be the case with most of these games. The weather's not the best, but it is what it is. I think, is a good play. And then I do kind of like Gary Sanchez as well against Anderson. I mentioned, I do like those Yankees bats. It is at least a decent hit. I mean, decent is putting it a little bit far, but with some wind blowing out in Yankee Stadium and moderate playing conditions. Sanchez, like I said, I don't like playing these Yankees guys like Sanchez, Judge, and Stanton against pitchers with power breaking balls, power sliders, especially. Anderson doesn't really have that. So I think Sanchez got a good chance, even against a righty, to do some damage. I'm hoping that all these Yankees face right-on-right matchups that maybe people will shy away from them for a little bit. So Sanchez, Contreras rather, my top two guys. You know, if you're not a believer in Waka, Sal Pal, I think is fine, assuming he's in the lineup. If the Boston game plays, Christian Vasquez, if that game plays, Boston will be my favorite stack on this slate. So, yeah, we'll see. I do think spending up probably the good way to go tonight.
Yep, I think that makes sense. Izzy is asking in the chat, can we get the top three pitchers in order? So, DC, give your top three pitchers in order. Again, if you didn't say it before.
The three guys I'll be using are Waka, Peterson, and Junis. Projected just straight up fantasy points, I would put Tyler Mahle number one, but he's more expensive, and I think he's going to be too popular, so I probably won't actually end up using him myself.
All right, JT, how about you? What's your pitching order for the top three?
I would say Junis, Peterson, and I will use Ian Anderson. Anderson made, I think, his second start of his career against the Yankees down here in Atlanta. Pitched well against them. He hasn't pitched well the first few games of this season. I look for guys like that to turn it around. I think you can. I think if you're playing multiple lineups, and this sounds like a cop-out, but this is just the way the slate is, I think you can have Anderson in lineups. I think you can have Yankee stacks in lineups, hoping that the Yankees break out. They are price reduced, at least on DraftKings tonight. This is about as cheap as you're going to get the Yankees for since we've seen the beginning of the season.
All right. Let's JT, actually, you got to talk about catchers, right? You didn't talk about the catchers yet. So hit me with the catchers. Obviously, spending up makes sense today. I assume you're doing the same. What do you want to do here with the catcher position?
Yeah, DC mentioned that Kluber has been pretty poor to start the year. The real thing that I would say has me worrying about Anderson more than anything else is that 17 to 20 mile an hour wind that's blowing straight out to right field. He is a 50% ground ball pitcher, but I think this is a game where we have the potential to see more runs than any other game, perhaps except Cincinnati and then Boston if that game plays. So I don't mind Travis d'Arnaud at 4-2 in the middle of that Atlanta lineup. I know Atlanta's a little bit banged up, but Kluber has not looked impressive at all. His fastball velocity is only 91.2 miles an hour. So don't mind d'Arnaud. And then I think you have to wait to see what lineups look like in that Cincinnati game, because I may have interest certainly in Carson Kelly. If I'm stacking the Diamondbacks, he's going to be hitting somewhere in the top 5 of that lineup, and he'd be a good option. And then you could look at either Stevenson, maybe not Barnhart, but maybe Stevenson on the red side.
All right. Not much more else to say here at that catcher position. Let's move on and talk about first baseman. And we still got some decent ones on this slate. If you want to spend down, you got Rowdy Tellez there. He's an interesting option. If you want to spend up, you got Vlad Guerrero, you got Freddie Freeman. So you have options. DC, you also have Pablo Sandoval, who you plug in at first base or third base. So what are you doing here? Are you spending up? You spending down? How are you handling it?
Yeah, I'll be trying to get to Freddie Freeman on this one. It was a bit of a letdown yesterday, but and he's been off to a little bit of a slow start, but I still trust him to turn it around sooner rather than later. So he's my top option. Certainly super expensive, right? But I do think he is a very good way to go. I'll go to my man Joey Votto, who kind of predicted his breakout 5-6 games ago, and he's been awesome since then. Gets Merrill Kelly, who I don't think is any good there. So he would be my number 2 at 4,500. Beyond him, I mean, those are really the two guys I want. You could go. DraftKings does have the second game of the doubleheader. Again, we don't love playing guys in doubleheader. You only get the 7 innings, but Colin Moran, a guy that's been good to us over at RPS. So you could play him if you're so inclined and he's in the lineup. Again, we won't know that for an hour or so here while they finish up that first game. And then, again, we don't know if Toronto and Boston's going to play. I just looked at the radar. Looks pretty grim for them, I got to say, but we'll see. We can try to update that before we get off the show. But Vlad Guerrero, always a good option as well.
Yep, Vlad Guerrero definitely in play. Love the Freddie Freeman call and love spending up, I think, at first base today. JT, are you spending up or are you spending down?
Yeah, I expect that I'm going to have a ton of salary, so I don't think it's going to be particularly hard to fit either Freddie or Votto. Those are my top two guys. If I'm going to dip down and take a chance on the Royals, then you could also go to Carlos Santana. Someone in chat mentioned Pablo Sandoval. He is in the lineup. He is 2,200. I just don't think you're going to need that type of salary savings. And on this slate, I'd rather spend up for guys that have a little bit more of a chance to do a little bit more damage.
All right, let's move on over to the second base position. And my read on the second base position today, it feels like it's a spend down. Kind of save some salary, spend it in some other areas, but you do have some decent options, right? If you want to go to a Marcus Semien at 5.2, if you want to go to a Brandon Lau at 4.3, there are options. And on FanDuel, you have Marcus Semien, who's like in that mid tier, which is too cheap. So I think he is a really good cash play. Again, I'm down to attack Richards. We'll go over to you, DC. What are you doing here with the second base position?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting sick of Ozzy Albies and his lack of performance, but I'll still probably ride with him some tonight. 4,800. He is expensive, but I still really think he's going to come around. So I do kind of like that Brave stack a little bit. I like both sides of Atlanta, New York. Just a run scoring environment that's just so clearly superior to the other ones on the slate. So yeah, Albies probably the top option, frankly, for me at second base. I don't mind DJ LeMahieu. We could have mentioned him at first base as well. Lead off. Again, I do like those Yankees right-handers tonight. Other guys, yeah, you mentioned Brandon Lau, I think is okay. Just don't love the KC game all that much for hitting, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, JT mentioned the Arizona stack. Do we have a lineup out for them? I haven't seen it.
I don't see it yet.
But yeah, Eduardo Escobar has been fantastic this season, 4,400. I think he's a good option as well.
All right. JT, what about you? What are you doing with the second base position? I think it's position again. Like I think it's FanDuel. It's easy. I think you're probably going to Semien or Allow. And it does make some sense to spend down, I think, a little bit on DraftKings. Be able to afford some of these bigger bats in the lineups today.
Yeah, Adrian's is leading off for the Braves. He's second base eligible at just above min price. I think he's 2,100 tonight. So he's over there. But Escobar is the guy that I'm looking at. Like I said, these Diamondbacks have been seeing the ball well. They're getting a lot of pitches, seeing a lot of pitches per at bat, and they've already seen Tyler Mahle just a week ago. So I like Escobar quite a bit tonight.
Yeah. We also DC. We got Rachel in the chat saying, "I watch and don't play. Can I be welcome in Draft Cheats basement?" So it sounds like that workbench in the basement could be getting some action down there in the old.
Always welcome down here. I need some company.
That they got a little appearance there from someone watching Mr. Draft Cheat on the show, giving out all the winners for you guys over here at Run Pure Sports. We also have a little code going on right now. Use the code HEATER25. Get you 25% off your first payment. So be sure to check that out. Also want to mention Twitter or Instagram if you ever have any screenshots. People say the members don't win. Use the hashtag members never win. You can use that on Twitter as well. We post that all the time to be able to showcase you guys and let people know that, hey, the subscribers do win and you guys are absolutely crushing it. And we're doing everything we can to help you guys out and give you the best content possible here. Let's move on now. Let's talk about, I believe it goes to, I always mess this up. Is it shortstop? Is it third base? DC, what do we go to next? Is it the shortstop or third base position?
I think third base, that's like the DraftKings order of positions, but if you're going around the diamond, it goes first base, second base, shortstop. So yeah, man, it's your call. You're the host.
Yeah. I mean, JT, I'm a baseball guy, hand in the dirt. Let's go to shortstop. Let's not do it the way that DK does it.
Yeah.
The spreadsheet guys, the analytic guys. Let's actually go in the way it's supposed to be. So we're heading over to shortstop, JT. I've heard DC talk about it in other podcasts. He says, hey, like spending up at shortstop is typically a good idea, right? There's a lot of good shortstops in this league and there's opportunity cost. Today, I mean, you got some good shortstops. Are they worth that price tag though? You have Bogarts at 5.5. You have Bichette at 5.8. Now these guys are not Corey Seager, right? But they're still good options and we have salary to spend. So are you spending for those guys or are you looking for other options?
Yeah, I mean, listen, right now I'm planning as if that game is going to be wiped out. If that game is in, it will be even if that game, let me put it this way, even if that game starts on time, Draft Cheat said the radar looks pretty grim there. So the two guys I have my eye on at shortstop are Eugenio Suarez for the Cincinnati Reds. And I expect that at some point, Dansby Swanson is going to come out of this funk. I believe Ozzy Albies is too. Dansby has had a 20% walk rate over the last 5 games. It's not great, but it's creeping up there. So I'd take a shot in Brave stacks with Dansby and otherwise with Eugenio Suarez.
Yep. Suarez definitely makes sense. He's someone I've looked at a little bit today too. DC, what are you doing here with the shortstop position?
Yeah, definitely like the Suarez call. Francisco Lindor has just been off to a dreadful start, but he's another guy that I think you can trust as a long-term talent on him. I'm not a big fan of Zach Davies, so Lindor would be a guy who would look. Actually, both shortstops in that game. Javier Baez, I think, is a solid play as well. Again, not great hitting weather, but it just is kind of what it is tonight. Gleyber Torres, I think, is good against Anderson, especially if you're going with the Yankees stack. I'd probably want to include him. Bogarts would be my top option if that Boston game, if the weather somehow clears. That's not what we're anticipating here. Swanson's fine. But yeah, I don't think I'm going below Swanson unless Josh Rojas is leading off. Sometimes he does, but he's usually not even in the lineup, which is kind of weird, but that's just how they're doing it right now in Arizona.
Yeah, on Arizona, again, it's not the best lineup in the world, but hey, you can obviously go down to him as like a punt option at times. I know FanDuel, he's been pretty cheap over there. Let's go over to third base now and talk about that. Again, third base, I filled out the cash chart today, and JT, you love the cash chart. It's an awesome tool that we have over here at Pure Sports, and on DK, I'm not really spending up too much, right, for the third base position. But on FanDuel, I mean, you can get a Suarez in there. You can go to a Vlad Guerrero who has that flexibility. Devers. So there's different options. I think on FanDuel, I see myself spending up more. And DK, I think I might spend down a little bit to jam in some of these outfielders.
Yeah, so I'm excited that you did the cash chart and it's up and ready. Number one, that makes me very excited. I always look at that before I make my lineup. So third base a little tough tonight. I mean, you've got certainly at the top end guys like we talked about in that game that I'm worried about. You've got Asdrubal Cabrera, who, if you're making a Arizona stack, I would include him. And then I think, outside of that, third base seems to me to be a tough position today. Maybe if you're making a Brave stack, you go to Austin Riley and hope that he can get going against a guy like Kluber. I'm not all that interested in the Cubs tonight. Otherwise, I would be talking about Chris Bryant, but seems a little slim to me there tonight. Maybe Gio if you're stacking the Yankees.
All right, DC, spending up, spending down. It seems like a tough decision, but I think that FanDuel, it's a lot easier at third base. DK, it's a little bit tougher, but your boy Pablo Sandoval, he's sitting there. You play the Rougned Odor, who is not the most fun roster in DFS, but when he hits one out, you're always excited. What are you doing here with third base?
Yeah, kind of like those cheap Braves down there. You got my guy Sandoval at 2,200. I said yesterday he wouldn't be pinch hit for. I was right, but he was pinch run for. I forgot about the pinch running opportunities. Makes sense when you're 5'7" and 290 pounds like Pablo Sandoval. But nevertheless, 2,200. I don't mind taking a shot there. We kind of clowned a little bit on Ehir Adrianza yesterday. He looked pretty good at the plate, I thought, and his numbers so far have been good. He's hot. He's 2,100. He's a switch hitter, second, third base eligible, hitting leadoff for the Braves, and he's got that nice wind out to right field, which for a guy who doesn't have the most power in the world, that could come in handy if he's able to loft one up in the air. So, yeah, Adrianza and Sandoval, I think, looks to me like maybe spending down a bit here.
Yeah, when you do run into that Adrianza home run, right, it's typically in the spots where, like, the wind helps you, smaller park, it's hot out. It's not like randomly in, L.A. or –
That's what I'm saying. They got the short porch in right field, wind blowing out there. It's like – yeah, just hit a little fly ball down the right field line, and it'll get out. I think one of us could even go deep in Yankee Stadium tonight.
JT, can you go deep in Yankee Stadium? Where do you bat in the softball lineup, JT, or the baseball lineup? I don't know.
JT's got some power. JT's got some power.
Where are you at, JT? Give me your profile. I need to know. We've talked about it a little bit here, but tell the people what kind of hitter you are on that baseball team you play for.
Yeah. Second through fourth, I could definitely put one out. So. Yeah, not worried about it, especially with a heavy wind blowing. That makes it nice.
There you go. And Mike Trout just hit another home run. So there you go. The hot streak with Mike Trout has continued. Again, he always hits home runs. He is the man. Even Darren Ruff hit a home run today. I know somewhere Big T is having a good time when Darren Ruff bangs one out. So we got games going on right now, which are fun to sweat. And we got these games coming up in a couple hours that you can check out over at Run Pure Sports. We'll have the core plays, the playbook, everything that you guys need over there. Let's move on. Let's talk about the outfield. Again, we just talked about Mike Trout, who's a great outfielder. And we got some other good outfielders today. We got JD Martinez is a guy you can spend up on. We have Aaron Judge, Meadows. We have all these Blue Jays who are in a decent spot. So we'll go over to you first, JT. What are you doing with these outfielders?
Yeah, I'm clearly going to be looking for outfielders to come from the teams I'm stacking. So guys like Ozuna for the Braves, looking at them. I think Tyler Naquin is a guy who is in a good spot against Merrill Kelly tonight. So basically, it's going to be for me, David Peralta. If he's in that lineup, I'll play him as part of my stack. And then, if you're playing a Yankee stack, Judge and Stanton both been hitting the ball pretty hard over the last week. Stanton in particular hitting a lot of fly balls. I think he's already hit a couple of homers this week. He's usually a guy where once he gets going, he gets on a pretty good roll. So they'll definitely be coming out of my stacks tonight. Not a real need to drop down to the cheaper outfielders, I don't think, because of the way that pitching lines up tonight.
All right, DC, how about you? Again, good spend up options. There's some good spend downs too. Like, I don't want to completely ignore some of these guys, right? I mean, if you look at the spots for some of these cheap options, you got Kike Hernandez. I mean, he's not dirt cheap, right? But he's someone I think that's in play today that you can get some exposure to. You look over another outfielder like, those Blue Jays, right? You got Gurriel in there. You got Benintendi, who's not in the best hitting environment, but if you need to spend down, you do have guys that you can go to. So spending up, spending down, how do you want to handle it, DC?
Yeah, I'm with JT. I think it's a good spend up day, certainly at the outfield. I've talked about those Yankees big bats a number of times. Both guys, Judge, Stanton can easily go opposite field out to that right field porch where the wind's blowing today. So I think we could easily see that. Of course, if the Boston game goes, JD Martinez is going to be the top option on the slate, at least the way I see it. Tyler Naquin, I didn't see him having 6 home runs at this point in the year, but he does. He gets Merrill Kelly in Cincinnati. I know 5,100 is a lot, but he's certainly earned that price tag, so I don't mind going there. I'll probably pass on Ozuna. He just looks completely lost to me. Jesse Winker, I think, is a legitimately good hitter in Cincinnati. I kind of like that Cincinnati stack the more we're talking through this. So, yeah, I think, most of the guys at the top are the way I'm going to go. I got to mention, of course, my guy, Akil Baddoo. Expect him to be in the lineup today. We haven't really talked much at all about that Pitt-Detroit game for fair enough reasons, I think. But assuming Baddoo is in there, I think he's a decent play. That weather in Detroit, I assume, is kind of crappy like it is everywhere else. But nevertheless, kind of like Akil Baddoo there at 3,800.
Yeah, definitely makes some sense there. We got some questions or some comments in the chat. Tony A says we are slow on the likes today, and I agree, right? I mean, again, not the best slate, only 316 watching. It's fine. They're getting ready for that nice NBA slate coming up. But we got to carry that mojo into this next show, right? We got to pull our part, right, JT? I mean, we're at 111 likes, 315 watching. We got to get that moving up a little bit, right, JT?
Yeah, need to get that number up. I mean, I'm not sure what people are doing if they're not clicking the like button. It's very hurtful.
Yeah, we might have to hold the plays here. We'll have to think about it and hold them for the Discord. DC, I don't know. You're kind of more of a man of the people. You don't want to ruffle any feathers, but do we need to get some more likes to give out the plays? What do you want to do here, DC?
Yeah, I'm not a feather ruffler over here. I'm not an instigator. I'm a man of the people, never getting in any fights or anything like that. So, you know what? Maybe people are feeling a little bit down about this slate. I can understand it, but still, hit the like button. We're still here. We're still giving out the best information that we can. Help us out. Hit that like button, and we'll get the good plays in here as we finish off the show.
Yeah, listen, we can't shortchange these people, especially with the NBA show coming on. We want to keep the good mojo going, so we will.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to do that. Definitely a must. Give me your stacks, right? Let's talk about the stacks. What do you want to do here? JT, I'll go over to you. Give me the way you're approaching this slate. What are your top 3 stacks today?
Yeah, I'll look to a lot of the Cincinnati Reds, and then after that, it's going to be the Braves and the Diamondbacks. And like I said, I'll have some lineups with Anderson and some lineups with Yankee stacks. The Atlanta bullpen has been less than stellar to start the year. So if they can somehow get a couple of hits and runs on Anderson and get to them in the 6th inning, then it could be a long day for Atlanta.
All right. How about you, DC? Give me your stacks. What are we doing here for this slate?
Yeah, I'm going Reds #1 against Merrill Kelly. Yankees #2 against Ian Anderson, who I do think is a pretty good pitcher, but I don't like this matchup for him in particular. Red Sox, obviously, if you're wanting to risk it, or it seems like it's going to be okay. And then, yeah, you know what? I'll join JT on the D-back stack. Listen, anytime you can get super low-owned dudes in a great leverage spot against a chalk pitcher who is, just a slightly above average pitcher, I would say for Tyler Mahle, that looks like a pretty good spot to me. Might go down in flames, but we're trying to get to the top of a GPP. We're not trying to min cash over here, not at RPS. So I think the D-backs make some sense.
Yep, never a bad thing to do. So let's head on over to the plays of the day. DC, I'll go to you first. Again, my favorite one. I love the graphic. So, be sure to watch that if you're like looking at a FanGraphs page or Run Pure Sports or Core Plays. Switch on over, look at the graphic. It's too good. We got DC's Mom's Basement play of the day. DC, it's a gross slate, but we're going to give out the winners. Who do you got here?
You know what? I'm going to call the Aaron Judge double dong today off of Ian Anderson and the Braves.
All right, we'll go with that. I'm gonna go with so I like maybe a little bit of a bounce back spot here for these Blue Jays. I think again, typically people like to rust them against the lefties, right? Because they have all those righties in the lineup. Let's head over for my play of the day. We'll just walk upstairs from the basement, find some dry hump action, and we'll go with Kevin Biggio, right? I like going to him here in this spot. Not the most kind park, right? You don't obviously attack the Red Sox park for the left field, but hey, Biggio's in a good spot. I don't like Richard, so I think it's a good spot to get some exposure to on this slate for that nice little 3.9K price tag. JT Hayes, now we're gonna hop on a plane, right? We got the vaccine, right? We're able to travel, it's safe, or we have our own private jet here at Run Pure Sports. We don't even have to worry about that. And we're flying over to France, right? And we're going to check out the Eiffel Tower. What are we doing here, JT Hayes, for the Eiffel Tower play of the day?
Throwing in the vaccine there. Very nice, man.
JT's got to be, you got to be an anti-vaxxer. You got to be. I'm just guessing, but I don't know. But I'm guessing.
No. My father has had the vaccine. My wife's gotten it. So
all right.
I know lots of people that have had it.
We got to mix it up for the people. You know what I mean? We also said, hey, we can also go private and stay.
Little vaccine talk. We could talk some Minneapolis verdict too. Yeah, we got some time to fill here.
Should we send a tweet out like the Los Angeles Raiders did yesterday?
Maybe not. Maybe that's not a great idea.
I'll refrain from doing that. I won't do that today.
AP's about to pull the plug on the show right now.
No. So yeah, I think we talked about how Tyler Mahle is going to be 40% owned. I think a guy, just because of his price, is going to go under owned today. He is in a good bounce back spot, I think. Freddie Freeman, 5.9K. I think he's going to be lower owned, 17 to 20 mile an hour wind, blowing out to right field. Love to see that for Freddie today.
Yeah, you definitely love to see that. And guys, like we don't know what's going to happen with weather. The game's not even postponed yet, so we'll see what happens, right? Again, it's a different slate. Then you move off it, you go to somewhere else. So that's what you have to do. JT, what's the weather site that you used to use? Before we get on out of here, can you pull it up, the dark site? What was that called?
Dark Sky.
Dark Sky. What does Dark Sky say about that game today? Because I have people giving me hate in the chat. And
pull that up for you right now.
The Dark Sky. This is not sponsored, but if Dark Sky you're listening, we'll take some offers.
I mean, it should be. As much as we use it, we should be talking to Dark Sky about it.
We do talk about Manscaped. Again, use that promo code RUNPURE20 if you want to get the workbench going. Make sure you're this is a great day to go and just get the work done down low right before the weekend coming up. It's a later day in baseball, so use that code RUNPURE20 to get your Manscaped stuff 20% off and get that nice free shipping. But what do we got there, JT? What are we doing here with the weather?
Yeah, so it's raining pretty heavily right now in the Boston area. Looks like it's going to taper off in about 45 minutes, but then pick up again and go until 10. That looks like it'll be a little bit lighter, but the field should be pretty miserable up until that point. So it's dicey. Looks dicey. Remember, this is a division game. These two teams play each other somewhere between 16 and 19 times this season. So it's an easy one to make up for them if they don't want to wait and see if they can play in that window or after like 9 o'clock.
It's a fair point. Should I give another play then, JT? I don't know what to do here on this one because
I mean, I don't know. DC and I have said like 10 times that we don't think that game's going to play, and that's all you keep talking about. So
I mean,
if those are your guys, then stay with your guys, man.
I mean, I don't look at weather until we get a little closer, and then I adjust stuff around because DC, you've done this long enough, right? If you looked at weather yesterday, Luis Castillo was a stay away, right? You should not be playing him until we got closer to the game. Then it was like, oh, it's fine. They're going to make it go. So
yeah, you should have stayed away anyway.
And then you still should have stayed away.
Well, of course, but he was chalk, and I don't think I played on DK that day. I played more FanDuel, so I didn't have to do it as much. But I felt like he was the chalk pitcher. In cash games, you had to play him. It felt like
Yep. I get it, baby.
And I was
chalk donkey. What can I say, man?
You want to be aligned with Big T, right? If Big T's on it, I mean, right now the time to be on it is with him. So
maybe you do.
Hey, he was in the winning lineup, I think, in the whatever it was yesterday. Someone had Burns and him.
Was he
Tampa
really?
Bay? So you could have won with him. Yeah.
That's crazy to think. I didn't know he was on the winning lineup. So there you go. But again, I like the game. We'll see how it goes. I will update the cash chart if need be. Give it another 30 minutes here, and then I'll make all the proper adjustments.
You just go ahead and update that cash chart once we get off the show because that game's not playing.
I'm going to be stubborn and fight through. We'll see. Give me 15 minutes, but again, I hope it goes through. We'll look at the weather. We'll pull up the dark sky. Hope we can get it through, and hope we can get it done. Because again,
cash chart is Toronto's starting lineup. Love to see it.
Yeah,
I'm stacking Toronto and Boston. And had to do the bar. I'm not even going to check it again. Just hope.
And stacking cash.
You cannot. Again, we have to wait, guys. We have to wait. It's how baseball works. I hope this game plays and goes for 20 runs. It would be the best. You know what? I might have to make a stack of that game now just to be stubborn and do that, but I won't. But that'll wrap it up for us, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us here. For me, Mangone, DC, and JT Hayes. See you guys later.